In 2010, I became a family law practitioner working mostly out of the family court in Trinidad and Tobago. And during my practice, I came across a number of issues which touched and concerned gender-based violence, and more specifically, violence against women and girls. It is this passion to address these issues, among other human rights violations, which led me to pursue my Master's of Law in Human Rights Law, because I wanted to understand human rights violations on a whole, and also to understand why this violence against women and girls were so prevalent. Women and girls represent some of the most vulnerable members of society, and therefore it is important to address these issues. According to the UN Women, violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent, and devastating human rights violations in our world today. My passion, therefore, lies in addressing gender-based violence on a whole, as well as focusing on violence against women and girls. Trinidad and Tobago has ratified several international human rights instruments which deal with the prevention of violence against women. The Inter-American Convention on the Prevention, Punishment, and Eradication of Violence Against Women is one of those conventions that Trinidad and Tobago has in fact ratified, as well as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Apart from our international obligations, the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago itself provides for the fundamental human rights and freedoms of all its citizens. The Constitution expressly declares that the fundamental rights which exist, it exists without discrimination by reason of race, origin, color, religion, or sex. The judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago has in fact sought to specialize and outfit certain courts to deal with gender-based violence. More specifically, there is the Domestic Violence Court. Currently, there are 3 courts which deal with family law issues in particular. There's the Family Court Tobago, the Family Court North, located in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and the Family Court South, located in Princeton. The Family Court South has been outfitted with a specialized court to deal with domestic violence matters. The court in Tobago is currently being outfitted to deal with domestic violence matters specifically. And as it relates to sexual assault cases, a committee has been set up to deal with sexual assault cases so as to establish a specialized court dealing with sexual assault. The Domestic Violence Act, as amended, is the piece of legislation which deals with domestic violence in Trinidad and Tobago. The amendment took place and was really introduced into Parliament in 2020, and it sought to amend certain aspects of the old Domestic Violence Act to provide for emergency protection orders. It also expanded the category of persons who can apply for protection orders and make provisions for emergency protection orders. It also established the National Domestic Violence Register for the domestic violence complaints. This act created a wide range of speedy and flexible remedies aimed at discouraging increasing incidents of domestic violence in Trinidad and Tobago. It increased the power and jurisdiction of the court and enlarged the scope and ambit of the protection order. It provided harsher penalties and also gave the police greater powers in respect of their ability to intervene in domestic violence situations.